June 1916, Woodrow Wilson officially signed Title 36 of the Congress Act, officially chartering the Boy Scouts of America to teach boys patriotism, courage, self-reliance, and kindred values. And whereas Boy Scouts of America and the Methodist Church entered into a formal agreement in 1920 and celebrated the first Scout Sunday on the second Sunday of February 1920. And whereas the United Methodist Church celebrated the 100th anniversary of its relationship with the Boy Scouts of America in February of 2020, and whereas in 2020 the United Methodist Church will be the largest sponsor of Boy Scouts with over 6,900 units chartered, serving over 320,000 youth with 118,000 adult volunteers in those charters. Therefore, be it resolved that Kershaw County joins with the United Methodist Church in celebrating its 100th anniversary of its ministry of scouting, and honors the United Methodist Church and Boy Scouts of America for their commitment to the children and youth of our community, and proclaims this day as Scouting in the United Methodist Church Day. My second proclamation, which we will also motion, is the 100th anniversary of the Indian Waters Council of Boy Scouts of America, and I'll shorten that a little bit. Whereas in the Indian Waters Council, there are currently, holy smokes, 5,400 youth members, a small portion who are here today, 2,000 adult volunteers, and I underline volunteers, and annually they recognize about 160 young people in the Midlands with Scouting's highest recognition, the Eagle Scout Award. And whereas Indian Waters Council, the Boy Scouts of America, and its core of dedicated volunteer leaders are providing necessary support to the leaders in the Cub Scout and Boy Scout units. Now, therefore, the Kershaw County Council hereby proclaims the year of 2020 as Indian Waters Council of Scouting 100th anniversary year, and encourages all our citizens to join in congratulating the many volunteer leaders, parents, churches, community organizations who have so generously allowed bringing this values-based program to our young people for the past 100 years and for many more years to come. And the third one is a bit of a surprise, right, Scotty? Proclamation honoring Jim Bradshaw as District Commissioner. Okay, Jim, just sit there and enjoy it, all right? You're not in charge tonight, all right? Whereas Kershaw County takes pride in its sense of community and citizen involvement, the vision of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare every eligible youth in America to become responsible, participating citizens and leaders who are guided by the Scout oath and law. And whereas Kershaw County is part of the Wateree District of the Indian Waters Council of the Boy Scouts of America, Jim Bradshaw was the district commissioner for that district for 11 wonderful years. Whereas Jim recently retired from his position and accepted a position as the Vice President of District Operations, he has been continuously active in Boy Scouts for 57 years. Is one of 5 brothers who are all Eagle Scout, and his son is an Eagle Scout. And he has served as Scoutmaster, Pack Committee Chairman, Pack Committee Treasurer at his home church, and served on all training staff programs, District Committee, Council Committee, and Eagle Board Chairman, as well as organizing many Scout units through the years. He is the Hartsville District Scouting Coordinator for the United Methodist Church and an integral part and leader of Special Olympics, also in Kershaw County. And whereas he earned the District Award of Merit, Silver Beaver, Vigil Honor, the Adult Religious Award, as well as numerous other awards, now therefore be it resolved that Kershaw County Council does hereby honor Mr. James Bradshaw. Can we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Mr. Bozard, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Tucker. I'll ask Bishop Holston to come forward before there's any further discussion. Sir?
Mr. Chairman, members of this esteemed council, my name is Jonathan Holston. I'm the bishop, resident bishop of the United Methodist Church here in South Carolina. For nearly as long as there have been scouts, the people called Methodists have supported their programs, emphasizing strong personal values, character, self-worth, and caring relationships. The Boy Scouts of America, founded in 1910, Girl Scouts in 1912, and soon after, in 1920, one of the forerunners of the United Methodist Church, the Methodist Episcopal Church, celebrated the first Scouting Sunday, a tradition that continues even today in our churches. Scouting Sunday was celebrated earlier this month, February the 9th, 2020, in many of our United Methodist churches across this nation, and especially here in South Carolina. United Methodist Church is the largest sponsor of the Boy Scouts. Some 118,000 adult volunteers work through nearly 7,000 chartered units to serve more than 320,000 youth. You might be surprised to learn that most youth who join Scouting through our churches are not United Methodist. About 1/4 of them are members of other denominations of faith. Half come through unchurched families. This is just one reflection of our sincere desire to be a ministry not only within our walls, but also within the communities our congregations call home. So I stand before you honored to work alongside the Scouts to instill in the next generation the values of character, courage, citizenship, leadership, and respect for others while developing self-respect and a strong reverence to God. Thank you for recognizing 100 years of Scouting through the United Methodist Church here in South Carolina.
Thank you, Bishop.
Amen.
Discussion from council members, please. Mr. Jones.
I have a comment. You know, this is a good night because I've got to really behave myself. I have my bishop and my pastor sitting in the audience. So she waved at me a while ago.
Pray.
Johnny, Jim, Kevin, all of you. I mean, you guys, I'm so proud of each and every one of you. I'm very proud of our church, the support that we give the Scouts as well. And you guys give a lot, and you never stop going. And I'd like to say that I was a proud tenderfoot. Okay? I'll always be honest with you. But anyway, congratulations to each and every one of you, and I truly mean that.
The comments, please.
Yes.
Mr. Tucker.
How are you?
I'm sorry. Mr. Bozard, you led this. Go ahead.
Yes, I want to thank all of you because I come from there, down in Orangeburg County. As a young boy, I was in the Scouts for about 4 years down there, and then went to Eagle Scouts and so forth. So, Mr. Shirley, I appreciate all your help in doing, and all of you. You got a good organization, and I'd like to see y'all come up to be great men, and some of you sitting right up here where we are now. So stay in Kershaw County and work here. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to all of you. Mr. Bradshaw, you've been doing Scouting longer than I've been living. Let me say this because Bishop, you're my bishop too. I'm not going to let him take all the credit. I've got my former pastor back there, Dr. Reverend James P. Smith. And then I see the Good Shepherd of Camden First, Reverend Keith Hunter back there as well. Welcome all of you. And we're all in the same charge for y'all who are not Methodists, you know, so we're all one big family. You said something about courage and values, and that kind of stayed with me because I need to make this statement because I was going to do it before then, but it really confirmed what I needed to say. Young men, I don't care who leads you. If it's a woman, it's a woman. If it's a male, it's a male. If it's a he, she, or it. If they're good people and they have God in their heart, and they do right by you and others, let them lead you. No one's perfect here on earth. And if it wasn't for the women in my life, black, brown, blue, green, white, purple, then I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Women runs the world. Don't let nobody fool you. It is that way in Boy Scouts. It is that way in church. You're going to find it's going to be that way when you get to college and when you get on your job. Don't be nobody's fool, okay? You let them teach you and nourish you and bring you up. It's whoever's going to be the leader. And I'm going to say this real too. The part of the problem with us men, and I didn't say black men, I said men, we too sorry and too slack to do what we supposed to do. So you follow the leaders that's willing to lead you and ask God for mercy and grace. Thank you.
Other comments? Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure. Just want to say congratulations to the Boy Scouts and all you volunteers. I know that a lot of the leaders in our society are Eagle Scouts or came through the Boy Scout program. So I just want to say thank you to the Scouting program for being a part of molding leaders, and to the Methodist Church. I'm a minister in the Church of the Nazarene, so as a Wesleyan theological cousin, I just want to say that I am, as a theological cousin, I'm proud of you guys, and thank you so much for the ministry that you've had in this community.
Other comments? Mr. Gardner, I'm sorry.
Yeah, again, just congratulations. You are you earn your way to the top, and you guys work very hard to get where you're at. You are our future leaders. You know, keep working hard. With your schoolwork and all your endeavors that you do. Mr. Shirley's a former student. He's worked hard to get where he's at. Always been a great guy from when I knew him many, many years ago as a student. So just keep working hard. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just going to say Mr. Shirley's had a big impact on my life, and I can say it was definitely through scouting principles. I grew up in Troop 348 locally, and whenever you say scouting, the first thing that comes in my mind was the hungriest event I had as a child or as a young man. Anybody who's done the Order of Arrow will remember that. You can tell I don't miss many meals, so I really noticed when I had to miss a few. But scouting taught a lot of discipline to me, and I hope it's carried over into adulthood. And I encourage you young men, and I'm grateful that you're here today and we could recognize you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I'll close before we vote. I see Walter Smith here from 56 years ago. He was my scoutmaster. And Walter, it was not me, it was my cousin that put those pine cones in your sleeping bag.
He's not here to defend himself.
He is not here tonight.
Sounds like a confession.
What a great night. What a great day in Kershaw County. Our volunteers make it a great county, and our young men and women who are here tonight will make it that way in many years to come. With that, I'm ready to call the vote. All those in favor signify. And it's unanimous, and what I'll do now is do a series of presentations. First, I'll ask Bishop Holston and our great Robin Dees to come up, and I'll make a quick presentation with a photograph, and then we'll do David Angle and Michael Whelan, who's here, and then we'll have everybody up. Let's start the process. Bishop and Reverend, please.
Right.
Trying to see what they do first.
Appreciate it.
Standing on the chair.
He's trying to get with ugly people in the back.
Further back.
Tall people down in front.
Got a young man here. Awesome. Johnny boy.
Appreciate it, Johnny.
Mr. Shealy, you do your work, man.
If the scouts don't leave right yet, hold on. Scouts, y'all hang around a minute.
Okay, Jim, go right ahead.
Wayne, get everybody quiet. I gotta make a presentation. Yeah.
I just having a hole in place. Go
I
ahead.
know, is it they say the best for last? No. I want to just turn around and thank you, all the leaders and the ministers and the church workers who support scouting. And if it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't have a great program. Linda Smith, you should have been up front with us. But thank y'all very much. But when I started this proclamation, 100 years and all, I got with Stephen and a few others in the area. And so talked with Julie. And we did the city on the 11th. Tomorrow we'll be going to the State House. We're doing 3 proclamations: Georgia Carolina Council, Indian Waters Council, and the Methodist Church 100 years anniversary. So thanks to Lori for that. But there's always somebody who I go to here, and just like the city, to help me out. And I want to present a 100th anniversary pin to Mary
Good.
and to Julian.
Thank you.
Everybody going to get food.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Well, they are going to go to a party, and we're going to stay here and work.
That's right.
Let's let the room clear, and then we'll start again.
They're probably more civilized. That's right. May not be a bad thing.
All right, Mr. Tucker, we're ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're ready to start again. Thank you very much. That was very worthy. We now have the next item on the agenda, which is the 75th anniversary of the Kershaw County NAACP. It's at tab D, and I will propose to read this, and then we'll take a motion. Proclamation in celebration of the 75th anniversary of the Camden-Kershaw County branch of the NAACP, whereas founded in February 12, 1909, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, is the nation's oldest, largest, and most widely recognized grassroots-based civil rights organization. There are more than 500,000 members and supporters throughout the United States who are the premier advocates for civil rights in their communities and campaigning for equal opportunity and conducting voter mobilization. And whereas the NAACP's stated goal was to secure for all people the rights guaranteed in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, which promised an end to slavery, the equal protection of the law, and universal adult male suffrage, respectively. And whereas the NAACP established its national office in New York City in 1910 and named a board of directors as well as a president, Mr. Moorfield Story. And whereas our local Camden-Kershaw County branch of this great organization was organized in May of 1944 at the Trinity United Methodist Church in Camden, South Carolina. And in February of 1945, the branch received its charter. Whereas in 1994, the election held under the single-member district plan for Kershaw County netted 2 minorities to be elected to the school board and to the county council. And whereas in August of 2019, under the leadership of now President Sammy Tucker, the building committee of the NAACP in Kershaw County helped secure its first office space in over 74 years and is located on Little Street in Camden, South Carolina. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the true movement lies in the faces, the diverse multiracial army of ordinary men and women from every walk of life, race and class, united to awaken the consciousness of people and a nation. The NAACP will remain vigilant in its mission until the promise of America is made real for all Americans. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Snodgrass, a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion. Mr. Tucker, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll lead off by saying thank you, gentlemen, for supporting this proclamation. This is a milestone for this organization. They have done many wonderful and lovely things here in the Camden-Kershaw County area. And I'll be the first to say that the original members, of course, a lot of them are no longer here, but they laid the foundation for others like myself and our members and our executive committee members that's here this evening. And I would like to take time and recognize them as well, has continued to work on. This organization gets a bad image due to lack of information. And I say that because everybody thinks that it's just for a black organization. It's for all people, and you all are welcome as members, guests. We do business with everybody. We take all race, creed, and colors as members, and we put everybody to work. If you got operating hand and feet, we don't care if you can't talk. We can find something for you to do. Matter of fact, we got a lot of talking, so we need a lot of them not to talk, including myself. So I just want to say thank you once again to this fine organization, which has been a blessing and a big part of my life and me being where I'm at today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure. Just want to add my congratulations to the local chapter of the NAACP. I grew up in Orangeburg, which is a city in our state that was a front row seat for many of the struggles that this organization led this country through. And I encourage everyone to the words of Micah 6:8 to love humbly, act justly, and to walk humbly before the Lord. So congratulations again, and thank you for the work that you've done to make our society a better place.
Other comments? I'll add to that, say happy birthday and happy 75 years. It's a great day in Kershaw County. It's a great day in an all-America county. It's a great day for everyone in Kershaw County.
Mr. Chairman.
And so I would point out, I'll be right with you, sir. I would say that we have the voting machines outside, and I'd like everyone who's here to have an opportunity to see it, Mr. Kaufman, right? And so that's one of our hallmarks of being heard is also at the ballot box. Mr. Jones, right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown always kept you straight. Had a lot of respect for that man, and you've done a great job. Congratulations to each and every one of you.
All right, this is a great day in Kershaw County, and let's proceed to the vote. And I congratulate you all. With all those in favor, signify by raising your hands. And it's unanimous. Mr. Tucker, congratulations. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
We want a photo op. Well, you don't shortchange me.
Okay.
May I ask that the executive committee members
Absolutely.
please come forward?
Yeah. Yeah, let's do that.
Yes,
Please.
sir, please. Some of y'all never be in a picture with us again. Come on. No, that's it.
No. No, 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 no. Enough, enough.
Get friendlier.
Yeah,
Get friendlier.
yeah. Y'all need to crowd in.
Yeah, there you go. Compact. I know. Compact. Get like sardines.
Yes, sir. Get kind of around him. There we go. All right, now I got it. Thank you.
Survived in spite of Sammy Tucker's leadership. So that's what I was going to say. So I said
I
nothing.
know. Look, I appreciate it.
We'll proceed with the agenda, making note that Mr. Jones will be back in a moment. We move to the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. It's in tab E and on the screen. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second that.
First by Mr. Gardner, a second by Mr. Connell, and make a note that Mr. Jones has returned. Any discussion? Mr. Jones, we're just starting on the minutes.
And I apologize.
No worries at all. Any discussion? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
I don't know what we're voting on.
The minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and it's unanimous.
That's right. That's right.
$1 million.
Thank you, Jimmy.
We move now to the next item on the agenda, which is an ordinance, a second reading of an ordinance of County Council to amend the zoning and map designation for 66 plus acres for block construction. It's at tab F with the picture. Mr. Carpenter, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight on second reading an ordinance to amend the county zoning map for approximately 66 acres of land. It is currently a RD2, would be rezoned to R15. It has previously passed the zoning commission and county council on first reading.
Very good. Can we have a motion? Mr. Snodgrass?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion that we move this to second reading.
Okay, we have a first, a second
Second.
from Mr. Tucker. Discussion? Mr. Snodgrass?
Yes, sir. Especially with Ms. Robinson have been here for public comment. I just want to say this is another reason to move this thing forward, and thank you everybody for helping us out.
Very good. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yeah, Mr.
Has there
Gardner.
been any other movement on the water situation that's been discussed out there from the city and Cassett or anybody? I know they were working on negotiating who's going to do what. Does that move forward?
They're still discussing. I'm not aware of any culmination of it.
I do have something to add.
Yeah, Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually had a meeting with the chairman, Mr. Halley, from the Cassett Water Board since last meeting, and they're going to be doing some discussing on the board on maybe trying to put like a water tank or something out there like they have done up 521 off of Sycamore to help lower that. And the main thing, Mr. Carpenter, that I encourage him to do is to reach out to you and figure out what we're doing with our fire service so they can know in the future as these situations crop up where we've got fire service for Camden and fire service for the county. But they're very optimistic that they'll be able to work things out and be able to cover it and keep those rates as low as possible, no different than the upper part of 521 up there where they serve. So that was the latest and the greatest, and I got that just this week.
Other discussion? Mr. Bozard.
Yes, please. I'm going to vote for this tonight, but Mr. Carpenter, we need to get a little bit of understanding with the water district, what's happening, because the way it's going right now, we all got a letter from Fire Chief of Camden, Mr. Bowers. And if he's right, then we don't have no business approving this thing. So let's check it out before next meeting.
Mr.
Other discussion? It might be argued that we can approve it, but a zone or the development may or may not proceed. So that would be a matter for planning and zoning.
Exactly.
But I think I would join with a little update on that. It may be more formal because we probably need to see where the lines start and finish and what the real issue is so we can understand Chief Bowers' position just out of a sense of respect for Chief Bowers. But I reiterate, I don't think this holds up a rezoning. It does hold up development. Yeah, Mr. Bozard.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, it's still our decision whether that thing goes through or not.
That's absolutely true.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Tucker, go ahead.
Okay, since y'all want me to dig in the trees, in the bushes, I'm gonna dig. The Cassett Water has federal grants, and when you have a federal loan, when you have that, there's restrictions, and part of that is they got to show progress in what they're making. Giving up service opportunities does not help their growth, and they get penalized. So if they ever go back to do another federal loan, that's going to be held to get them. It's a little bit more technical than what I just said. I was just trying to give you some brief reasons why not, and I'm not telling you, Mr. Bozard, that Mr. Carpenter doesn't need to have a conversation. I encouraged that in my first conversation when I said it. But at the same time, it has nothing to do with us as far as approving this because we are proving that they can do it. I think Cassett Water, Kershaw County, and the city of Camden need to work out how they're going to provide the services that's necessary to cover our citizens with the fire service. We've never gotten into the weeds on nobody else's development, and I don't know what's stuck in some of y'all's craw about this one, but it's not fair, and I don't think we need to be there. You vote your conscience. If you don't like what the developer's doing and how it's going, vote no.
Okay, Mr. Bozar?
Don't cut me off. I'm not finished.
I thought you were.
Thank you, yeah.
But
I usually say
Mr.
that.
Tucker, why
Thank
don't you continue?
Yeah, thank you, sir. So with that being said, let's not make this personal. Let's keep a professional and open mind on how we make these decisions, and let's be consistent.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bozar, thank you, Mr. Tucker.
In reference to some of your conversation there, Mr. Tucker, I had a conversation with Mr. Carpenter. I asked him how many other subdivisions did not have this policy. I mean, this insurance that they got water. He said none of them. So all the rest of the subdivisions has the water supplies needed for fire protection.
That one built up there off of Highway 97 doesn't have it. That's why that water tank's up there. I guess
All right,
that's not a
Ms.
subdivision.
Jones, go right ahead, sir.
Mr. Carpenter, is that true?
Of,
What Mr. Bozar just said?
well, in that area where there are water lines that have hydrants, then they do, but a developer is not required to provide fire protection in it. So, to Mr. Bozard's question of which ones have water and which ones don't, Ms. Bozard, I apologize. I'm trying to remember the context of the question on the answer I gave you. So I don't remember the context of the answer that I gave you, but we obviously do have some subdivisions in the county that don't have.
Okay, that's what I thought,
Fire
yeah.
hydrants. So I just don't remember the context of the question to me, therefore the answer I gave him.
But basically, there is other
There are
subdivisions.
subdivisions, yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think we're all violently in agreement this is an issue, and I've asked Mr. Carpenter to show us a little bit more about this next time, if y'all are agreeable, and I think we can move forward to a vote unless there's other discussion.
One more.
Mr. Gardner.
As it's zoned now, the development can go forward. It can build the houses now. I mean, it's, all we're doing is rezoning so we can build more. And my issue with the water is that I'm concerned about it because if we double the amount of houses out there, then that's going to be a problem. But I think I'm going to vote for it to move it forward. But the opportunity for entities to work together to solve the problem, that's what I'd like to see them do. That's why I asked my question is, hopefully they can sit down and work that out. I'm not here to stop the development. I just hope that we can work it out, because I'll be concerned for the 120 houses or whatever they build out there. So that those are our constituents. We need to be concerned, and if it is a safety issue, we need to be concerned about it. And that's why I question it. But he can develop it as it is. We can't stop him from development as it is. We can stop him from putting twice as many homes on it, which is what he's asking for. So, we're not going to stop the development. It's just a matter of a safety issue for me. So.
Okay. And there may be other issues, Tom. Mr. Snodgrass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would encourage us to keep moving this forward. This issue is causing us to have a conversation and to make decisions that the county should have made years ago. East Camden continues to be the black hole of Kershaw County and continues to be a neglected area of the county. So this is, in my mind, this decision is causing us to have very important conversations. And our zoning manager, Michael, can tell you, all the emails that I've sent him, the word East Camden is probably in every email that we've gone back and forth on this. So this is something that's very important to me. And again, this is just rezoning, but it will cause us to have more conversations on East Camden and the infrastructure that needs to take place out there. There is a fire hydrant, and it belongs to the city of Camden, I get that, but it's on Bradley. It's right across the street from where the sign is that says rezoning hearing. So if logical men and women can get in the room and get around a table, I'm fairly certain that we can figure this out. I'm fairly certain that we can get this whole thing figured out. Thank you.
Thank you. Ready now for a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Very good discussion and unanimous, Mary. Go to third reading. We move now to old business as amended under the agenda. And this is old business, sir. And Mr. Connell, will we need a motion on this, Ken, for discussion?
I think you can make a motion for discussion purposes.
Okay, Mr. Connell, would you make a motion to open up the River Jam as old business?
We'll go under old business first? Okay.
Yep.
All right, I make a motion that we discuss and move into discussion the Land Jam event.
I'll second that.
And a second from Mrs. Snodgrass. Mr. Connell, would you open it up?
Sure, so I'll give just a brief background. What you see pictured here is some of the work of a local business owner, Doug Gainey. Doug, if you would please come up. Doug actually wrestled at Lugolf Elgin High School. We were on a wrestling team together. Obviously different weight classes. Well, that never prevented him from grabbing me at practice.
Got a funny anecdote
but
about that later.
Doug is a local business owner. He owns a oil and lube shop up on Highway 1. Many of you might get some service there. He's distinguished himself as a concert promoter over the last number of years. Some of you may have heard of Drift Jam, which is a concert at Lake Murray. I've just been impressed over the last 6 or 7 years how it's grown with over 25,000 in attendance last year. It's a country music festival out at Spence Island. Doug was looking for another event called Land Jam. It's a country music festival, and he thought that the river parcel that we have now would be a great location. And that's why I think it should be before Kershaw County. A few of the time-sensitive things, which Doug can get into, is promoters have to lock in contracts on people that are going to come and sing well in advance, otherwise you lose the opportunity. And then there's a couple other issues, but I'd let Doug share a little bit more about what he plans or would anticipate for this type of event, some of his excitement about it, and then, of course, any questions y'all might have.
Great. Sir?
First of all, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity and fully utilize this platform while I had the chance. But as Ben referred to, him and I used to wrestle back in the glory days at Lugolf Elgin High. And during one of our intense practices, some could say we had an aggressive one-on-one match standoff, and I would like the record to show that I, Doug Gainey, scored one escape point against heavyweight national champion Ben Connell.
One
Want to get that
point.
etched in stone. Do it. I can repeat it if I need to.
I hate to waste y'all's time, but I think I may have fallen asleep, and I don't remember that at all.
Let's move on before he comes across that countertop and I'm in a world of trouble here. Anyways, as Ben was saying, my dad and I started Gainey's Loop Center 16 years ago, 2003, 17 years ago now, I guess. And we've been, I grew up in Lugolf. I'm from here. I wrestled, I played sports. I've been very involved with the community growing up. And about 7 years ago, I'd spent a lot of my summers out of Lake Murray. And about 7 years ago, while I was working literally on a notepad, I had this little seed of an idea to create a music festival on water and have the entire event floating, and it's only accessible by boat. And from that little notepad to 7 years later, it's now the world's largest floating music festival. Thousands of boats come from all over the country every year. We have estimated 25,000 last year. And during the process of building that over the last several years, I eventually planned to branch off into a land festival, a sister festival, if you will, based on land. And Ben and I had spoke years ago about my ideas of wanting to do this, and he strongly encouraged me to bring it to Kershaw County, which was, a shoo-in for me, as in it being a country music festival. This is a better market for it. So, anyways, the river parcel there came into play recently, and given all the logistics of where it's at, centrally located to Columbia and just around the state where our market would be to bring in attendees, this is the prime spot for it. Not just for the festival's sake, but also for Kershaw County. We're just the economic impact that it'll bring in. We're bringing in over $1 million to the Lexington-Richland County economy through Drift Jam. And Now, this won't be that large of a scale starting off, but it's going to be, a similar economic impact eventually to what Drift Jam is now. And I really think it could put Kershaw County on the map in this kind of music entertainment industry. There's really no other music festival similar to this anywhere around here at this scale. Myrtle Beach has the Carolina Country Music Festival. Outside of that, you have to go to Atlanta or you go to PNC at Charlotte, but those aren't festivals, So I think there's a golden opportunity here to use this parcel to kind of put Kershaw County on the map for a family-friendly type event, and really grow it into something as big, or hopefully eventually bigger than Drift Jam. That's my long-term goal. Aside from putting us on the map in that field or industry, there's a big economic impact that this could have, bringing in people. Our main markets are going to be Fairfield. Starting off will be Fairfield, Florence, Darlington. I can't think of the other county that's a little north. There's the main markets that we're going to be focusing our marketing on to bring in for the first one. So to get it off the ground, a lot of work's already been put in, as Councilman Connell was saying, and the time sensitive comes into play because I don't want to bring in just small local acts. They will be included, obviously, but I want to bring in major acts that will draw a crowd, that'll be worthwhile, so it's not just a one-off festival here and there, So that's my plans. I'd appreciate everyone's support, and I'd love to work with you guys on any ideas or thoughts or concerns you had to make it a win-win for everybody. So,
Ben, do you want to describe the map so everybody can?
Well, actually,
understand it?
I was going to ask Doug if you could tell us a little bit about what you anticipated there as amenities or the concert stages. Maybe describe the diagram you have, which will be provided to the media and council.
Yeah, the stage to the furthest one to the bottom of the screen would be the main stage. That would be the bigger stage with video walls. That's where our bigger acts will perform. The stage to the there you go. Thank you, sir. The stage to the right would be a smaller type stage for secondary acts to play in between set breaks. Let's see. We're going to have I'm working with Billy Smith to include a rodeo of sorts, not a full-scale rodeo, but a small showcase about an hour long of bucks and broncs, or bulls and broncs, I believe he said. Billy's handling all of that. He had his issues recently, so I don't have all of his details yet, but he's on board to handle that part. So we'll have a rodeo type showcase. Everywhere you see these areas will be parking for our attendees, with a handicap parking here. These tents here will be vendor showcases, any type of merchandise or et cetera. We'll have a kids zone in play, bounce houses. It'll be a family-friendly event. So we'll have areas for children to have a good time. The whole family can come out. And then obviously the emergency areas that we have designated for anything that was to pop up, which will also include law enforcement. And then back here in this area, this will be cordoned off. This will be the VIP kind of backstage area. And then back here will be our band or artist green room and parking, et cetera. And then over in this area here, we'll have our food truck or our food vendors, or however you want to label it, in this area here to separate the two stages. It's pretty simple layout, but I believe with the size of this land and just seeing it in such a large field and really set up, the aesthetics are really going to give this a really professional look and not just some one-off little type music event. I'm very, very picky about the little details. That's why Drift Jam was so successful. That's why everything I've ever really dove into has always worked. I've got stacks and stacks of notes and papers just from the first year of Drift Jam. So to be successful, you have to look successful. And having this set up out in that field is really going to stand out for anybody that attends it. And, it'll put, through marketing and exposure, it'll put Kershaw County, or especially Lugoff, as a go-to place in time as it grows.
Ben, are you ready to open it up for questions?
One other comment I was going to make. This is the Watery River Veterans Park, and you typically team up with a 501c3. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've spoken with Tom Mulliken and the Yak the River event that they put on every year. We're going to include that into our festival. They're going to move it. August 8th will be the date. They're going to move it from April to that. So we'll be working with Tom, or Thomas, I guess his son, to include that as part of the festival. It'll be basically the kickoff to the festival, similar to, like, say, in 5 Points, St. Pat's Day. They do a 5K to kick off their show. We'll do the Yak the River to kick off our show. And then we're still working on some of the logistical details, but we plan to end the kayak up under the bridge there, in that parking there. So that way we don't have to utilize that ramp there, and it will keep all this blocked off.
Great. Let's open for questions. Mr. Bozar has his hand
Yes,
up.
I have several questions. Mr. Cornell, are you a financial backer in this? Are you receiving any funds from this?
I am not going to receive a dime, and actually I'll probably spend thousands of dollars to support it.
Other questions?
Yes, I'm not finished.
Go ahead, Mr. Bozar.
Mr. Carpenter, since this is a financial project here, how do we charge for this land?
Well, the county doesn't have any policies for renting the property at this point, so we don't have a track record of doing it. It would be our recommendation that at least for the first year that we don't charge for the use of it in order to encourage its growth, so that as it gets established, then we could establish an appropriate amount to charge for it. But we don't have anything established at this point.
We need to establish some then, because I don't see us letting people use our land for their personal gain. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bozar. Mr. Jones, and then you, Mr. Tucker.
Mr. Doug, thank you for being here tonight. Listening to you talk, is it similar to what Blythewood does with Doco Park?
I'm not familiar with that.
They had actually been, I ran into him. There were 4,000 people there the first time I went, and I ran into him.
Which park is that, Jimmy?
It's in Blythewood.
Oh, yeah. 4th of July last year?
Yeah, I think it was. And then also they're doing something next month, where they promote big name bands. I think they had lead singer Boston there last year when you and I were there. They had some small local bands as well. But I think you got a good plan. I hope it works out for you.
Thank you.
I have not been a supporter of that property, but I hope this works out for you. And I commend you. You sound like you're well organized, and you know what you're doing.
Thank you. We got to get you on stage up there.
Other comments? Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. David, it is? Or Doug?
Doug.
Try that pointer one more time.
Yes, sir. Where are we going?
Okay. Because you keep moving it around. I didn't know if it was you needing a drink or
you got one?
Now, thank you for coming out and explaining this tonight. I'm pretty sure you are very aware of security and y'all have got a handle on that. Yeah. Okay, just want to make sure on that. And Mr. Carpenter, I want to say to you, I think you hit the nail on the head. We can't charge somebody for something that we don't have any value in as far as being a popular spot until we build a reputation. So we need to do as much in-kind and partnership as we possibly can to build that name brand, so then maybe we will have something that you can sell. I don't know nobody sell merchandise that's garbage. And then not only that, as much as we've been beat up on this park by some of our citizens, that has not helped us to make it where we can get one red dime to go down there. So partner with Doug, and let's make this a success in the years to come, and then we can continue to try to embrace some guidelines. But I want you to research what other counties and parks are doing. If that's part of the in-kind, I want to know that when we start setting these rules. Because what I don't want to do is pass up opportunities to bring tourists here and have a good place for our citizens to go and have a good time. I don't care what they're playing out there.
Other comments? Ms. Snodgrass.
Sure. As a student of Reaganomics, I believe the payment in kind will be thousands of people that come to our county, and that'll trickle down into our local economy. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how we can let more people know about Kershaw County and why they need to be here, and why they need to stay in our hotels and stay at our restaurants and buy gas here. Thank you.
And get their oil changed.
And oil change. Thank you, sir. That's right.
Tom Gardner.
I have a question. Do you have an anticipated attendance figure that you're looking at that you would like to get to, or?
Well, whenever I organized everything, I based it off a 3,000 cap. We were going to cap the tickets at 3,000. As it grows, as the progression of the festival grows, if it becomes to the point where that seems unattainable, or just where it would be too stressful to get that as first go around, we can limit the ticket sales. But I organized the entire event based on a 3,000 cap.
And how many people do you think, should it continue to grow, that you can host out there?
Well, with the size of that property, the attendance wouldn't be the biggest hurdle. The parking would be the hurdle.
Right.
I've been to the Carolina Country Music Festival in Myrtle Beach, and it's, I'd probably say half that size. The four blocks they use, and they had 17,000 people out there last year. So I mean, just from basing it off that, I don't see how 20,000 people would be with out of the realm of possibilities.
Off-site busing them in.
Yeah, and we're talking about definitely on down the road. But if we get to that point, you're talking about millions of economic impact at that point. And, that's a hurdle we can cross when we get there. But as it stands now, I kind of, that's the reason I cap it at 3,000. It's something manageable. There's going to be hurdles that pop up left and right on these things. It's just the way to go. But with a limited attendance like this, they're pretty easy to manage as they come up.
Well, with one road in and out, it
well,
would be a serious issue.
Yeah,
There'd have to be some other aspect of getting people in and out of there.
Yeah, Shane Duncan and Mr. Tipler there, we've discussed some of the logistics of that in our meetings prior, and I believe it's on the agenda to maybe widen one of these cut throughs here as a secondary entrance and exit. I don't know. I can't speak to that for certain. But we're going to also cap the in-house parking, I guess you can call it, at 800 cars. And that way it'll limit just some of the cluster that we have to deal with, and it'll encourage carpooling.
Well, I think, Jimmy, you had a question.
Yes, sir. Mr. Gainey, one last thing. When we talk about food vendors, and it looks like this is probably going to happen, I think you and Ben have really worked some details out. But would you please try to consider local food vendors?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because that's something that they've expressed to me. If we do any type of, or if there's any type of function, that they would hope that they would try to.
100%. I would. I mean, if you look at where the vendor tents are, I'd be thrilled if we could fill all those up with, if local companies would purchase those. Yeah, like I say, my shop's in Lugoff. I grew up here. Part of the desire to have it here is to really liven up this community. I grew up here. I mean, good Lord, Ben seen the sweat and blood I put on some of the wrestling mats back in the day. I'm pretty invested in this town. So, that's part of the reason why I'm excited about this all coming together at the right time.
Well, you've seen more than I've seen for sure, but you might want to check out March 14th in Blythe, what they're doing.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a really good band's playing over
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Hey, that was great, Ben. And we need to give this young man an opportunity to be successful, and that's the reason we went ahead with this. I appreciate your patience, gentlemen, in allowing us to put this on the calendar. Ben, good work. Sir, you can bet we'll be in touch. Good luck at Veterans Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we move to the next item. Thank you, Ben. To new business. We have two. The first item is number 1, which is the 2021 goals and objectives at tab G. And each of you should have a hard copy. Can I just make sure you all have it? Mary, has everybody got one? and it should also be available to the media. Can we put a motion on the floor to approve, and we'll have, I think, some lively discussion. Can I have a motion, please?
So made.
Mr. Connell, a second?
Second.
Second, who's that, Tammy?
Not
Thank you.
Tammy, but Sammy.
Yeah. How about Hammy, Sammy, Tammy? All right, very good. It's on the floor. And can we have Mr. Carpenter lead us through what's happened here? And in advance of that, thank you and the staff and Holly Hayes for getting us to this point. Go ahead, Vic.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, approximately 3 weeks ago, council gathered to begin reviewing the year that's coming up. Staff made presentations, some outside organizations as well, so the council is aware of the landscape that's presenting itself to us in the upcoming 18 months. As a result of that, council had discussion in the afternoon and had a number of issues that were put out and discussed. Ms. Hayes then took that information and collated it into what you see in front of you of the high, medium, and low priority goals for the council. She tried to convey in words what sometimes 3 or 4 of y'all have said in different words, and tried to kind of coalesce it into something that captured the essence of what the council members were saying. And that's what you have in front of you tonight for your discussion and consideration.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll preface that by saying after we go through these, then we'll get into a series of working sessions to figure out how and if we can afford this and budget for it. And so with that, Mr. Connell, do you want to lead off on anything on this since you had the motion?
Sure. Well, not generally. I skimmed through and they reflect my recollection of what we discussed. I know 1 or 2 people had to leave early from that planning session, but I think we tried to reflect their interests and concerns in setting the goals. But I look forward to hearing what fellow council members have to say about it.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on here. Mr. Snodgrass, go right ahead.
Sure. I'll just point out that the hard copy that you have has a slight addition on there than even what's on the screen. I was one of the ones that had to leave just a little bit early. My daughter had a dance competition that she really specifically asked me to be there for, and so I went and did that. But I just have added on high priority. The planning and zoning is recommending a transportation corridor study for East Camden, and so I got with staff and made sure that was on there because that was one of the things that I had indicated. So.
Yeah, very good. Other comments? Yeah, Jimmy.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Members of council. What I'd like to do is ask county council, and I'd like to make this in the form of an amendment. I think the intention probably is to vote on this as a whole. I would like to see if we could vote on this individually instead of bundling them all up into one group, because there's some things in there I may could support, but there's some things in there that I don't feel comfortable with.
I think that's a good idea. If there are amendments, why don't we do this, Jimmy, and just set it up for discussion and then move into it. If there's an amendment, we do line by line. Is that how we did it in the past?
Actually, we've always voted on them as a whole. We never have.
I'm prepared to do it as a whole, but if there's an amendment, I think we ought to do it by line.
Well, my amendment was going to be that we take this work that we brought before us tonight and that we go by issue, line by line to vote on as far as our top priority, medium priority, and low priority. That way it doesn't, I don't want to use the word trap, but kind of back me into a corner of having to vote against something I would like, but I'm voting against it because it's something on there that I just don't agree with.
Well,
because I'm not in agreement with everything total, but I'm not against everything.
Yeah, procedurally, that would be an amendment to the motion we have in place for Mr. Connell that's been seconded, which is that we were going to vote on the whole thing itself. So
that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, the ruling here would be that we're going to have to do it. You're going to have to make a motion to that effect.
Well, that's what I've been saying.
Okay, go right ahead and let's see.
But I'd like to hear from Mr. Tucker first, if I could.
Oh, please.
Yes, sir.
Out of respect.
And I've had a little bit of conversation with Mr. Jones. I don't want to go line item by line item, but I have no problem taking the highs, the mediums, and the lows, which that somewhat divides you up. That may not help you a lot, but
sure,
we'll be all night going line item by line item.
Well, you know, I'm not really worried about the time so much. You know,
I am.
But here's the thing: what I'd like to do, let me just go ahead and move forward, and we can we can end this conversation. I'll just go ahead and make an amendment to the motion that we take the high priority, medium priority, low priority, and go by them line by line on each individual item, and we vote.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Personally, I thought we could also, the other means at your disposal is to go line by line and do, is to take a motion on any item that you wish to change. But we have before us a motion to do a line by line on each item as it comes up. That's about 30 items. With that in mind, any further discussion? Mr. Snodgrass.
Question is, am I interpreting this correctly? So these are our goals and objectives. Does this, if we vote on this, I mean, is this set in stone? This is what we're going to do, or does some of these issues will have to come back before us to have additional votes? What do you think, Mr. Carpenter?
What we've done and what I would do is upon council approving some of these or all of these, I would use those and use them to build the budget to the best of my ability to accomplish as many of them as I can. Now, it's a rare year that we do all the high priorities, or sometimes a high priority takes a couple of years to complete it. So the goal is that we try to at least address all the high priorities in some fashion, as many of the mediums, and then lows as well. So it's used as kind of a fundamental as we look at the budgets coming in and make sure that the budgets are in alignment with what council wants the budgets to do.
So this helps us create a roadmap, but still council will have to vote on whether or not during this roadmap we want to take an exit and pursue one of these goals or objectives. So, Mr. Jones, I hear what you're trying to, what you're saying, and I sympathize with that to a certain degree. But I mean, I will say that in the budget process, if there's something on here that you don't agree with, then that would give you the opportunity to be able to make some adjustments.
Other comments? Yeah, Jimmy.
If I could, thank you, Mr. Snodgrass, for those comments. I don't agree with you on that. So, well, let me just say this. Yes, I could. But however, I would still have, if I voted for this tonight as a whole, all bundled up, I would be voting for some things that I don't support, and I can't do that. That's why I asked if we take them individually. You know, government has I think, a good track record of pretty much bundling things together and voting for them. But that's just, my amendment stands. That's the way I feel, and I have no further comment.
Mr. Connell.
I mean, it seems the quickest way to address the concern would just be to make a motion that if it's 4 or 5 things that you don't like, or 1 or 2, just make a motion and we can discuss them and figure out whether or not we want to keep them on there or not, based on your input.
Not much difference in the amendment.
Except for we don't know what the items are you don't like.
Well, that's why we're here. I haven't really, talked to anybody in private about it. I mean, I hadn't thought about it. I just went over them earlier this week, and as I said, I would just like to see us take them item by item. I don't really know what the issue would be not to do it, other than it may take a little bit longer, but it wouldn't be that long. I'm willing to sit here and do it.
Mr. Gardner?
Well, it's like Mr. Carpenter says, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do these high priority or mediums or whatever they're not in any particular order. And, we're going to address it, again, as Mr. Carpenter said, when he gets to the budget. And as for Mr. Jones, you're not going to vote for the budget anyway, so I don't know what difference it makes.
Well, you never know.
Based on history. So, I mean, what difference does it make?
Other comments? Let me ask Mr. Carpenter, since he does bring up a good point. Eventually, you're going to provide us with a work plan that will intensify in the weeks to come, and you expect to have that this week or the next time we meet?
It would be available by the next meeting, sir.
Yeah, okay, and then we can start blocking our calendar to dig into each of these in detail and provide resources. And we'll hear also from other people like the community, the United Way, the sheriff, and others in more detail. That's when we really roll up our sleeves. Other discussion items. Okay, we have a motion to take a line-by-line review on each item. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That's Mr. Jones. All those opposed signify by raising your hand. And it's Mr. Jones, excuse me, Mr. Connell, Mr. Bozard, put your hand up, Mr. Burns, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Snodgrass. So the motion fails.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and thank you, members of the
No,
council.
it's a good point, Jimmy. And we're back to the original motion. Are there any further discussion on these items? Seeing there is none, we move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. It's Mr. Connell, Mr. Bozard, Burns, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Snodgrass. Those in opposition, Mr. Jones. The motion passes, and these are approved. Go build a budget, Mr. Connell, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you. And with that, we move to the next item of business, item number 2, Central Carolina Technical College Landscaping and Irrigation at Annex H, and it's on the screen. Vic, do your magic here and introduce the topic, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, as you recall, when we some years ago began the process of developing the campus, it is now almost to its final stage. The last part of the campus is to landscape it. So what you have in front of you is the bid which would landscape, it would build sidewalks, and it would set the stage so we can have the ability to say that we're done with the campus. The low bid that we are requesting that we go with the bid of contractor services of Kershaw, out of Kershaw, South Carolina, for $456,669.
Can we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion that we approve, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Tucker, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Discussion. Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vic, two-part questions. Does this exceed the amount that we had allocated for this? And where is this money coming from that?
It does not exceed the money allocated, and it's coming from the 2014 bond that was issued.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Very good. And there was some OPM on another piece of that, and I'd like.
That'd be coming for council later.
Okay.
This will do the part that is Campus Boulevard all the way into the campus, as well as the campus itself. Another phase that we received state funds towards would be coming from 521 on Century Boulevard. And so that'll be a different project that would come in front of council.
As all of you know, and the reason I said OPM, that's other people's money, state and other sources of money, which is a specialty of Mr. Carpenter, is that we will collaborate with the school, the chamber, CCTC, and others, and with the help of our delegation to provide some additional landscaping and signage to really brand that location, the joint use campus. I think it's fantastic, and I look forward to Vic bringing that in. Thank you, sir. Other discussion? All right, with that, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Vic. Thank you very much. We move to council briefings. And as a point of order, since the Boy Scouts led us on all portions of it, get the Boy Scouts back in here.
That's right.
Mr. Tucker, they took your place on the schedule, so would you lead us off, please?
Yes, sir, but I would request, if you would, Mr. Chair, to put me back on schedule.
Oh, you always give great prayers. All right, sir, go ahead.
Thank you so very much, and I'll go first again next time. I want to say probably the most two important words in the English system is thank you. Thank you to all of you for once again supporting the proclamation for the NAACP. And I know we always don't agree on everything, but I appreciate your support, and I appreciate the tireless work that the people do who has the boots on the ground. That concludes my report.
Mr. Gardner.
No report.
Mr. Bozard.
Yeah, I'll need about 45 minutes. No report.
Well, I want you to get warmed up, Mr. Bozard, for that river jam, because we're going to put you on a stage. Mr. Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had someone stand up, I think it was Mr. Tobin, if I got the name right, in public comment, ask about coronavirus. Last night we had a hospital board meeting, and we have a brilliant infectious disease doctor on staff at Kershaw Health named Dr. Olatosi. And the question came up, how concerned should you be in the United States? What are the issues? And he said we should be very concerned, not just beyond it being like the regular flu, but the issue with coronavirus, and I'm not a doctor, but this is just for your information. Typical flu is spread through droplets. And he said what's unique about the coronavirus is it is aerosolized. So it can hang in the air and get sucked in through vents and get spread. And he just said people have to be hyper vigilant. If you have a fever, isolate yourself, get treatment, but isolate yourself. He cited several examples of what they call super spreaders. Think of the genteel old aunt at church or the granddad at church that shakes everybody's hand and gives hugs. And they tracked it back in this one congregation in Europe to one lady who had spread it to hundreds and hundreds of people by just showing a little bit of love each Sunday. So be very aware that locally our physicians are concerned and that we need to be on guard with this virus and protect ourselves. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Connell. Jimmy.
No report.
Mr. Snodgrass.
Sure. Just a couple of announcements. Just want to remind everyone, Chairman mentioned in his opening remarks that tomorrow begins the season of Lent with Ash Wednesday. And just to make you aware that the Kershaw County Ministerial Association will once again host Lenten community services. And so tomorrow there'll be at Grace Episcopal Church for Ash Wednesday. And then every Wednesday after that, there'll be different services at different churches throughout the community. About a 30-minute service and then lunch served afterwards. Also want to remind you of Unity in the Community, which will be coming up April 4th. And just a big invitation for the town to come together and to share a meal together. And then another thing, I've got some really cool news for you. I don't know if you guys know this, but that's my basketball team. I coach with the rec league, and we are your 10U girls champions for the county, and won that last week. And so it was just really excited about that. And just so you know, I didn't even go to the tryouts. It was one of those things where Jeremy Murphy sent out an email saying, I need coaches. And I said, I'll coach, and just whatever team you get, just give it to me. I'll coach them up. And was fortunate to have a few girls in there that knew they knew what to do with the basketball. So just congratulations to those 10U girls and a great season. Was very proud of Shane's not here, but very proud of our Kershaw County Recreation Department on a great, outstanding basketball season. And that concludes my remarks.
You had a great assistant coach and a lot of prayers too.
I did, exactly.
Yeah, okay, I'll close it out. Spring sports are starting. If rain will ever stop. So we appreciate your support to Shane and his team. Secondly, we had a very exciting moment today. We got $9 million from the federal government and $3 million from True Vista, a total of $12 million plus to provide what we said we would do in our Vision 2030, which is wideband Wi-Fi to the rural areas. I want to thank the county staff, particularly Vic and Mike Conley, who really doesn't get enough credit for all the work he does in so many different ways, and working with the state, federal, and True Vista hierarchies to get this done. It starts now. It'll take 5 years to complete, but it will hardwire some 6,000 homes, a great number of businesses, rural households, farms. As Ron Prestige said to me today, and it's the quote of the day, this is transformative for our rural community. It's amazing. Anyway, you got a vision, and then you got a great staff, and you get support of partnership with federal, state, and commercial entities, and you get things done in Kershaw County. Thank you very much, Mike. With that, I also want to say that with Mr. Bozard and Mr. Jones, first and seconding the reestablishment of the Kershaw County Clean Community Commission under Wanda Swan and a bunch of other wonderful people, to include representatives from all three of our towns and cities. We won the state Clean Community Award. Vic, if you'd hold it up, it's right there. It's a really great paperweight if you want it, but it means something if the county and the state realize that we've got an issue and we're working together to make it happen. And we've also gotten a state grant for that from Palmetto Pride. I thank Vic and his team for supporting that clean community. And I would remind you all that on Saturday, the 21st of March, or the week before the Cup, I would like to see you all out with yellow trash bags and picking up on the various places. Wanda Swan will put you to work. And lastly, on the coronavirus, I've met with the National Guard in North Carolina and South Carolina and a number of other people to Ben's point and to your question, right now we have less of a pandemic than we have an infodemic. We have an absence of good information. So way short of panic and crisis, the county and state staffs are working on a response. But as Ben said, wash your hands like your mother said. With that, over to you, Vic.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, 2 items for you tonight. One is on Tuesday, March 24th, South Carolina DMV and also the State Voter Election Commission will be at the Old Armory Tuesday the 24th from 10 to 2. A key thing about that is that they will be getting people to be prepared to get the new IDs that are become a requirement in October, the Real ID. If people don't have the Real ID, they will be limited in their ability to travel. They'll either have to use a passport or have a Real ID in order to travel by air, as well as enter certain federal buildings. So this has been coming for years. They're starting to get a little stressed because so many people still have not made the change. So we're supporting them. So again, the 24th of March at the Old Armory, the Rec Center, they will be there for 10 to 2 in order to try to encourage people to participate.
Mr. Carpenter, yes, can you email that to us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please.
We will put that out right away.
And it's on Facebook, too.
I don't do Facebook. I'm Facebooking now. Can you
already-
email that to me?
It's already on Facebook.
Okay.
And also, with the Rec Center, the Rec Department is working with the Council on Aging, and with their Bethune Center, the Council on Aging developed a partnership with our Rec Department to do their meals there in Bethune in the Rec Center there. And by doing so, they expanded in the community. They've almost doubled the size of the daily or the weekly participation in Bethune. And it is truly a community-wide. It is not one church, one race. It is the entire community now participating. And they owe that to the fact that the County Rec Center is the location. That, Mr. Chairman, members of council, my report.
Would you reintroduce our voter registration?
I'm so sorry, sir. Absolutely. We have tonight with us also with machines out in the lobby. Our Director of Voter Registration, John Kaufman, is here to answer questions of anybody that may have them. Hopefully people have been going by and checking the machines as well to learn how to use them when they vote on Saturday, when there will be an open primary for the Democratic presidential preference.
Thank you. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing.
Thank you very much.
Mr.
And with
Chairman.
that- Yes.
The administrator was not finished. He had one
I'm
more
sorry.
thing.
As well, there has been a change in one of the precincts.
Thank
The Charlotte
Charlotte
Thompson
Thompson.
precinct has had to change to St. Matthew's Community Center. This is something that has been approved by the state. It's just the circumstances made it impossible to use it on Saturday.
Very good. And the attorney has no points. Can we take a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Tucker, second.
Second.
Second for Mr. Gardner. Any further discussion? I wish you all a great evening. It's a great evening in Kershaw County. All those in favor signify by raising your hands, and it's unanimous, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.